Tennessee Titans quarterback Cam Ward has the potential to win multiple Super Bowls, multiple MVPs, and change this franchise forever. We're going to have some hope on today's edition of Locked On Titans.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast is brought to you by the Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. You can turn any TV into your Xbox. No console needed. Head to amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. On today's episode, we are going to take a look at the long-term future and the long-term potential role of all of the Tennessee Titans' 9 draft picks. Of course, we're going to start with Cam Ward and talk about all of the fantastic possibilities that have come to the Titans with the pick of Cam Ward. But we're also going to talk about the star potential of the Titans' day 2 picks and talk about a breakout for one of the Titans' day 3 picks as well. Before we get into all of that, though, I do want to thank you for making Locked On Titans your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day. Speaking of every day, shout out to my everydayers out there tuning in Monday through Friday. Couldn't do it without you guys. If you aren't an everydayer, you need to be one because we got a ton of content coming in the next few weeks, breaking down not only this rookie class, but where the Titans roster is at right now. We're going to see off-season activities start. Rookie minicamp is right around the corner. And before you know it, training camp will be here. So again, make sure you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day. But with that being said, we got to start with Cam Ward, of course. And yesterday, like I said, we talked about short-term rules, what they're going to be in 2025. And I just want Cam Ward to be QB1, just be a top 20 starting level quarterback in the NFL, prove that the Tennessee Titans were right for taking you, get this team going back the right direction. That's what I want from Cam Ward. Anything else other than that, top 10 season, Pro Bowl, take the Titans to the playoffs, anything else in 2025 is simply a cherry on top. But when we talk about Cam Ward into the future, when we talk about what Cam Ward can be going forward and the high-level potential that is here right now based on the Titans' circumstances, we are talking about MVPs, Super Bowls, a franchise-altering player who changes the tenor and the way with which the Tennessee Titans are viewed and discussed. That's what the high-end potential is here. That is what the long-term potential is. Yes, I am projecting. Is there any guarantee that any of this stuff works out the way that we hope? No, we've seen it fail before. We just saw Will Levis fail, although the stakes and the investment are entirely different with a second-round quarterback. And the initial hope of what Will Levis could be was obviously way lesser than what Cam Ward's hope can be. But at the end of the day, we have seen this not go right. We've seen Vince Young, which still hurts my heart. I still believe in you, Vince. Jake Locker. Marcus's situation was far more complicated, but at the end of the day, we saw him go down in a disappointing heap at the end of the day. And, the replacement with Ryan Tannehill ended up being for the best, and it did make some of the best Tennessee Titans teams of all time. But at the end of the day, if you're a true Titans fan who wants to see them have their own homegrown, elite-level quarterback, franchise quarterback, our guy from the start, if you want to see that, then watching Marcus collapse the way that it happened with the injuries in 2018 and then the 2019 season and how bad it was, missing short throws, and it was just so bad. It was sad nonetheless. I was ready to move on. I was on this show saying, hey, I'm ready to move on as well. But it was sad to see Marcus go down the way that he did. So it's time. That's my point. It's time. We've seen it not go right. We can't know that it's going to go well, but I am sorry. I am going to have hope. I am going to be optimistic. I'm going to believe in Cam Ward every second that I possibly can until I can't any longer, because the hope, the potential, the long-term ramifications of this going well for the Titans honestly probably mean too much to me to be healthy for a human being on earth. I care way too much and have way too much of my happiness and mental stability based on the Tennessee Titans. And the reality is that through this journey, we have found happiness through different things. You know, the Ryan Tannehill era with Derrick Henry and the Chris Johnson, even though we had to deal with, the Kirk Cousins. That's really funny. That anyway, moving on. Even though you have to deal with all of the mediocre quarterback play that we have had to deal with. That's still funny to me. Kirk Cousins, Kerry Collins, Kirk Cousins. I mean, it feels very similar now, but it's like we have always had to deal with this is awesome for us. But I'm tired of that now. I'm tired of that. I want the franchise quarterback that comes from the dirt, the flower that you grow, that's yours all the way through. And that's what Cam Ward has the potential to be. So yes, is it hopium? Absolutely. But isn't that what being a sports fan is all about? Isn't it about having hope, having something to look forward to, being entertained, bringing you joy? Isn't that what it's all about? And look, you got to be honest when things don't go wrong. You can't just pretend on it. Can't sit up here and tell you that Treylon Burks is going to have some breakout season or is going to get his career back on track. An element of logic has to be entertained. But the point is that even when you apply some logic, there is a clear logical path to Cam Ward becoming the type of player that can win multiple MVPs, that can lead the Titans to multiple Super Bowls, make them a contender every single season, change the way that the franchise is viewed. That 100% can happen here, and that needs to be the long-term goal. That should be the long-term role. The short-term role is just to be QB1, be the starting quarterback, be an improvement from last year. But the long-term role for Cam Ward is franchise savior. That is the truth. That is what we all hope the long-term outcome, the long-term role of Cam Ward is. Not just somebody to win games and make us have fun on Sundays, but somebody we can be proud of, somebody that people want to talk about, somebody that people want to show love to, somebody that other fans are like, man, I wish I had Cam Ward, that when you go on TV, you say, man, Cam Ward's one of the most exciting players to watch. Somebody that makes the Tennessee Titans matter. That's the simplest way to put it. And it's funny because when I go on the show and I start going and I start talking, eventually some of these things come to me at the end, and I've gone this whole thing, but I can sum it all up in Cam Ward's role for the future is to make the Tennessee Titans matter. And you do that through winning, through awards, through success, through aura. At the end of the day, I like the word moxie. I know the kids these days say aura. Even my generation says swag. I was always a little bit of an old soul. I like moxie. You know what I mean? But that's what Cam Ward's long-term role is. I don't want him to have the reason I said what I said yesterday, and some of you guys pushed back, no, I need Cam Ward to be better than that. But we don't need to put the expectations too high on Cam Ward in year one with a roster who we all just admitted is a terrible roster. So I just need Cam Ward to prove he is an NFL quarterback. And after he gets his feet wet there and proves that, then we can move on to the things that will really move the needle for all of us. And that is, quite frankly, saving the Tennessee Titans. But the best part about all of it is logical to have hope that can happen when you watch Cam Ward play and the person that he is. Will it? We can't know. But you're a completely logical person if right now you close your eyes at night thinking about Cam Ward lifting up a Lombardi trophy in a Tennessee Titans jersey. Perfectly fine to have those dreams, and you should. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is the best place to buy tickets, and if Cam Ward works out the way that we hope, you're going to be buying a lot of tickets to go see Cam Ward play. But right now, there's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Game Time, you can be a part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as you get closer to tip-off, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. My favorite part about Game Time is the excellent features. They have all-in pricing. You get a panoramic view from your seat so you know what you're going to be looking at when you sit down. Also, you get the Game Time guarantee to make sure you're getting the best price. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Titans fans, let's continue today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. Talked about Cam Ward's long-term potential, but now I want to talk about some of the Titans' day 2 picks in Femi Oladejo and Kevin Winston, because when we talked about this group of guys yesterday, I made it very, very clear that their year 1, 2025 role is nothing compared to what I think their role can be going forward. So I'll tell you what I think their role can be going forward. Do want to first thank you for making Locked On Titans your first listen each and every day. The Titans have released their undrafted free agent list officially, so we'll talk about that on tomorrow's show. Can't wait to dive into that with you guys. But we got to start with Femi Oladejo. And again, his 2025 role for me is a rotational edge rusher, basically edge 3. Is what I would call Femi Oladejo, maybe edge 4. If you look at Arden Key, Lorenzo Carter, and Draymond Jones, all his guys ahead of him on the edge chart. I can understand that. But when we talk about Femi Oladejo going forward, when we talk about Femi in 2026, in 2027, I think you're talking about a Pro Bowl level player. Think about Harold Landry at his absolute best. At his absolute best, Harold Landry was a great number 2 rusher. Think about T. Higgins. T. Higgins is not a number 1 wide receiver in the NFL, in my opinion, and if he is, he's a low-end wide receiver. Think about Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley is not a true number 1 wide receiver in the NFL, in my opinion. He is a low-end wide receiver 1. And on a good football team, Calvin Ridley is the wide receiver 2. On a good football team, which I guess you could say the Bengals aren't a good football team because they didn't make the playoffs, but I think a lot of Titans fans would rather be the Bengals right now. If you could have Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and be that team, like the Titans would have traded for that last year. So let's not act like, the Bengals are the Browns. Let's not act like it's the same, or the Bengals are equal with the Titans. Like, that's not the case. Let's not forget they went to a Super Bowl a couple years ago. But the point is that on a good team, T. Higgins is not the number 1 wide receiver. I don't think you can win a Super Bowl with T. Higgins as the number 1 wide receiver on your team. Maybe I guess you could if you were good enough other places. But regardless, I think you guys understand what I'm saying. So for me, the long-term role for Femi Oladejo is high-end edge 2. High-end edge 2. Think about Travon Walker right now for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think that Femi Oladejo can be just as good as Travon Walker is right now for the Jaguars. Right now. That's 10.5 sacks. Incredible against the run. I don't think that Femi Oladejo is a TJ Watt, Max Crosby, Micah Parsons, Nick Bosa. I don't think that even the best version of Femi Oladejo is that level of edge rusher. Not quite there. But again, Travon Walker makes a ton of sense to me. Trey Hendrickson probably should be grouped in with that other group. But he is a powerful rusher who, 17.5 sacks the last 2 seasons. I think that's all you need to know. So I don't know quite if he could get there. But I think you look at a player like Jonathan Grenard. You look at a player like, again, Travon Walker was 12th in the NFL in sacks. Odafe Owe, another great example of a guy who had very little college production, needed a ton of development. He had 10 sacks last year for the Ravens. Top 16 in the league. So when I say that if Femi Oladejo can become a Travon Walker or an Odafe Owe, you guys should understand that means a high-level number 2 edge. Now, Odafe Owe, I think Baltimore Ravens, because they're in a unique situation that they're always in, they could go a couple of different paths with that. But I think Travon Walker right now, 13 tackles for loss, 10.5 sacks, had 61 tackles. I think that right there, more tackles would be good, no doubt. But that's what you're looking for with Femi Oladejo. I don't think he could be your elite number 1 edge rusher, but he could be a high-level number 2 edge rusher that, with a good group with him, can be dominant. As a cleanup rusher, as an effort rusher, like, I guess I value that very, very highly at pick number 52. I think it was an excellent pick, and that's what it could be. Now, Kevin Winston, pick number 82, third-round safety, Penn State. I think Kevin Winston has higher potential than Femi Oladejo. Again, I think high-end Femi Oladejo is a elite second-tier rusher. I think Kevin Winston could be a top 5 safety in the entire NFL. His 2025 role was just as a rotational safety, be the third safety, come in, play some dime linebacker maybe, rotate in on early downs when guys need a break. You could put him as a forward safety in dime packages where there are 3 safeties on the field. Maybe you have Xavier Woods, Amani Hooker, and then him out there. I think that's the role in 2025 as he gets back on his feet after the ACL tear and kind of just learns the NFL game. He's 21 years old, so a lot of development still needed. But Kevin Winston has the length, the speed, the mentality on the field to be a top 5 safety in the NFL. I think saying top 10 safety in the NFL is really not that much of a hot take. I think that Kevin Winston can be a top 10 safety in the NFL, a red chip player. Blue chip players are like the top of the top, like the top, 5 guys. Red chip players are the top 10 at their position. That's the term that I've heard used. Blue chip is the top 5. Red chip is the top 10. And I think that Kevin Winston, I'm going to say this boldly, I think Kevin Winston is at minimum a red chip player. I think that Kevin Winston is going to be a freaking player, man. I just believe. I tell you, the last time I had this feeling about a mid-round guy was Kevin Byard. That was even before I did this show. Watching the draft in 2016 with my brother, who's also a Titans fan. And when the Titans picked Kevin Byard, I had a feeling like this guy's going to be special. The ball skills, the awareness. Yeah, it's a small school, but this guy's going to be special. And that's why I love Kevin Byard. He's like my favorite Tennessee Titan ever because he paid off on the bet. He was the one that I thought he was. I think Kevin Winston is that as well. I think Kevin Winston will be like Titans fans will argue Kevin Winston's the best safety in the NFL at times throughout his career. Defensive leader, star player. That's the long-term role, in my opinion, for Kevin Winston. But now let's talk about all the guys on day 3. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by the Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? You could turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to go. You could dive into hundreds of premium titles, including EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty, as easily as you stream your favorite shows. And speaking of streaming your favorite shows, you're obviously going to get Netflix, YouTube, all your streaming services with the Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. And then again, you get your Xbox in a Fire TV stick. It's going to make it so much easier to travel around and play games and be on the move. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller are required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. Titans fans, let's cap off today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. We're looking at the long-term roles, what these players can be in the long term for the Titans. Again, Cam Ward could be a franchise savior. I think Femi Oladejo is a high-end edge rusher too, and I think Kevin Winston could be one of the top 5 safeties in the entire NFL. But now let's talk about the day 3 options. Again, before we do, thanks again for making Locked On Titans your first listen. Check out my Kevin Winston film breakdown over on the Tic Tac Titans YouTube channel. I break down everything that Kevin Winston brings to the table, some of the things that need to get cleaned up as well. So again, I think he has star potential, and I show what I saw on tape over at Tic Tac Titans. But with that being said, we got to start with Chim DK, who was the Titans' first day 3 pick. Round 4, pick 103, the 6', 200-pound wide receiver with great speed out of Florida. I think Chim DK, for me, long-term, his role is just a rotational wide receiver. I don't think that Chim DK is ever going to be a bona fide starter. I think he's going to be a wide receiver 4, maybe wide receiver 3. Now, I think he would play on the outside. I think Chim DK, 2 years from now, could be playing the Calvin Ridley role. That could be what he does within the offense, is play the speed Z role that takes the top off the defense. I think that's his projection within the scheme. But I think overall, in terms of like what his talent level does on the team, I think he's a wide receiver 3-4. Think about what Nick Westbrook-Akine's role was supposed to be with DeAndre Hopkins and Calvin Ridley. Like, yeah, you could have NWI be the 3rd wide receiver in that, but you're going to give opportunities to Treylon Burks. You'll give opportunities to a traditional slot wide receiver like Tyler Boyd. Like, NWI's role in the offense is what I think Chim DK's role in the offense would be in terms of the pecking order. But in terms of how he's used within the scheme, I think he would be a backup for Calvin Ridley, or could be in the Calvin Ridley role. And I would compare it to a Daimi Brown, who just played for Washington and signed with Jacksonville. Brown was he was slotted as a number 2 wide receiver for the Commanders last year. But now in Jacksonville, he's behind Travis Hunter. He's behind Brian Thomas Jr. He's behind Gabe Davis. I think they might move on from Gabe Davis. Keep an eye on that. But regardless, right now, Daimi Brown is an outside speed receiver who is kind of a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4. And then you add in long-term kick returner and punt returner, and I think that's Chim DK's long-term role on this team if he hits. If he is a hit as a draft pick, I think he's a wide receiver 3-4 that provides speed and depth, and then he's your primary returner. That's what I think he can be going forward. Now, he could be that this year, but I think that's the ceiling. I don't think that he's ever like a bona fide, hey, that's our number 2 wide receiver. I don't think that that's where DK's potential is. Now, Gunnar Helm, on the other hand, Gunnar Helm, as you guys know, I talked about yesterday, I'm high on Gunnar Helm in 2025 and higher on Gunnar Helm in the future. I think Helm can be a top 10 tight end in the NFL. My guy James Foster from No Flags Films compared him to TJ Hawkinson. I compared him to prime Austin Hooper. Prime Austin Hooper for the Atlanta Falcons was a top 10 tight end. So that's what I think Gunnar Helm could be. Will Gunnar Helm ever be Travis Kelce? Will Gunnar Helm ever be George Kittle? Will Gunnar Helm ever be Mark Andrews? I don't think so. But a TJ Hawkinson, a Dallas Goedert in terms of production and ranking amongst tight ends, a prime Austin Hooper, maybe not top 5, maybe 5th, but 7, 8, 9, that level of tight end. That's what I think Gunnar Helm will be in the future. And then we get to Alec Manor. And I think Io Manor has a higher long-term or better or more important or a higher long-term ceiling than Chim DK. The size at 6'2", 210 pounds, still only 21 years old. The length, the ability in contested catches. His skill set is so different from Chim DK. DK is a speed receiver that gets down the field. Io Manor can get down the field and win vertically, but he's going to be a big-bodied guy who wins contested opportunities. He is a big physical X receiver. Not a Z receiver like Calvin Ridley, an X receiver. Think about a T. Higgins. Think about an A.J. Brown. Big, physical, line of scrimmage, press coverage, tight man, isolated situations, one-on-one, go over top, win over the quarterback, moss the guy. That's what Io Manor can do. And I think because of his skill set and because of the role that he can play, like I said, he's going to be more impactful for the Titans in 2025, but I think he's also going to be more impactful long-term. I could see Io Manor being the Titans wide receiver 3, but a starting wide receiver in their starting X. Imagine if next season, 2026, Io Manor is the starting X receiver and the number 3 wide receiver in terms of opportunities and pecking order. Then you have Calvin Ridley as your Z wide receiver, who is in theory your number 1 wide receiver. And then you have your slot wide receiver, who hopefully the Titans add in the draft or find a way to add, a better, more talented than Io Manor receiver who could be your slot, because I think Z receiver and slot receiver are the more important wide receiver positions for Cam Ward going forward. If you could have your 3 most talented wide receivers, if your number 1 was your Z, your number 2 was your slot, and your 3 was your X, I think that would be the best breakdown for Cam Ward going forward. So Io Manor, to me, has one of the most impactful short-term roles in 2025, but long-term, I think he can be the 3rd most talented wide receiver on the team and the starting X receiver for the Titans, which is a huge, huge, huge possibility that would really help this team when it comes to building out this roster. Now we get into the final 3 guys. Jackson Slater, for me, we talked about his short-term role being as a practice squad, end of the roster, final offensive lineman on the roster type role as he develops as an athlete who needs to add strength and technique. But Jackson Slater, long-term, I think could be the starting center for the Tennessee Titans. I think Lloyd Cushenberry comes back this year. He's okay. The Titans give him another chance to come all the way back from the Achilles and be fully healed next year. He'll be 29 by the end of the 2026 season. Then I think Jackson Slater could be the replacement that offseason after 2 years of development. He develops as again, end of the roster practice squad guy this year. Next year, he is the number 1 replacement interior offensive lineman and O-lineman 6 or 7 on the roster. And then the next year after that, he becomes a starter. So I think Jackson Slater's long-term role for the Tennessee Titans is starting center. Then you go to Marcus Harris. And look, I struggle with this one. There's 9 picks. I can't like all of them. It's just not going to happen. I'm not very high on Marcus Harris. I think he's a guy who's a practice squad guy this year. I think he might have a hard time making the roster. Now he's 5'10", 190 pounds, smaller guy, already 24 years old. So an older guy who struggles with awareness and the mental aspects of the position. But look, I admit, he is super twitched up. He's got great speed. He's a very good change of direction athlete. He's got all the athletic traits that you're looking for from a speed and agility standpoint. But again, small guy, old guy, bad mental guy. I don't have high hopes for Marcus Harris, so I can tell you his short-term role, in my opinion, is practice squad. I can tell you his long-term role, in my opinion, is out of the NFL. I don't see it. I'm sorry. I don't see it. But if it does work out, he would be your long-term slot cornerback with letting Roger McCreary leave in free agency after the season. And then you would have Snead and then JBJ on the outside with Marcus Harris on the slot. I don't buy it, though. The last guy is Kalel Mullings. And I'll be honest with you. I think Mullings' 2025 role is the exact same as his long-term role. I think Kalel Mullings, Superman Mullings, is going to be RB3. He's going to be a goal line and short yardage power back. He's going to be a potential return option for the Titans as a kick returner. I think kick return more than punt return, but he's done both. And then I think he's going to be a special teams demon. I think Superman Mullings is going to be a Pro Bowl special teamer. Hassan Haskins, another running back, power running back out of Michigan, who's an excellent special teamer, went to the Chargers and was still a great special teamer. I think that Mullings is better. I think that Mullings is better than Haskins. Haskins was more stiff in the hips. I think that Mullings is a more physical athlete. I think that Mullings has more speed. I think that Mullings is going to be a special teams demon, Pro Bowl special teams level player from Kalel Mullings as he continues to be RB3 in the power back for the Titans. That's his long-term and short-term role, in my opinion. But with that being said, let me know your long-term roles for these guys down below, or hit me up on Twitter at TicTacTitans. That's going to do it for me today, folks. As always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland, and this was Locked On Titans.